Today, I would like to talk about Sampajanya, the clear comprehension. I will recite first Pali. It is said in the Satipatthana Sutta, Punaja Parang Bhikkhave Bhikkhu Bhikkhante Patekante Sampajana Kari Hoti Alokite Vilokite Sampajana Kari Hoti Samenjite Pasarite Sampajana Kari Hoti Sanghati Pada Jivara Dharane Sampajana Kari Hoti Pite Khayite Pite Sayite Sampajana Kari Hoti Ujjara Pasawa Kame Sampajana Kari Hoti Kate Tite Nisaine Sote Jagarite Pasite Toni Bawe Sampajana Kari Hoti in the Satipatthana Sutta. In going forward and in going back, the bhikkhu or the yogi applies clear comprehension. In looking straight on and in looking sideways, the yogi applies clear comprehension. In bending his limbs and in stretching his limbs, the yogi also applies clear comprehension. Sanghati Pada Jivara Dharane. In wearing the double robe and other robes, carrying the bowl, the yogi, the bhikkhu, applies clear comprehension. In eating, drinking, savoring, the bhikkhu or yogi applies clear comprehension. In obeying the calls of nature, Ujjara Pasawa Kame, he applies clear comprehension. In walking, sitting, standing, falling asleep, sote, jagriti, awaking, speaking, keeping silence, yogis apply clear comprehension. This is the instruction given by the Buddha. So according to this instruction, we practice accordingly. Not only sitting meditation and walking meditation, what we call sometimes daily activities, mindfulness and daily activities. Sometimes we call general noting, mindfulness general in the general activities. Sometimes we may call mindfulness in detail. We have to note all the activities. So these are Sampajana. At the beginning of the Sutta, at the beginning, the Buddha also taught us, you have heard many times during this retreat, because I told these words many times. Atapa, Sampajana, Satima. 3 tools. Atapa, putting forth effort, strenuous effort. Then Satima, being mindful. If we are mindful with effort, strenuous effort, Sampajana, we can understand clearly as they really are. Sampajana is the Pali word. There are a combination of 3 words. Sam, Pa, and Jana. Sam, oneself, or correctly, or thoroughly. Pa, various way. Jana, understand or discern. So one who practice meditation ardently and energetically can discern correctly or thoroughly as they really are. That is the meaning of Sampajana. Sampajana. To understand, to discern clearly and correctly, thoroughly, we are always reminded to be mindful each and every moment. When we note the rising falling, note it carefully and closely. When we note footstep, note it closely and carefully. All the activities, not only the rising and falling, and right step and left step, whatever rises from the 6 sense doors, we have to note carefully so that we can discern clearly and thoroughly and correctly. So that's why today I would like to talk about Sampajana. Sampajana. So when we talk about Sampajana, there are 4 kinds of Sampajana. Sattaka Sampajanya, Sappaya Sampajanya, Gochara Sampajanya, Asamoha Sampajanya. 4 kinds of Sampajanya. Sappaya, Sattaka Sampajanya, the clear comprehension of what is benefit. Sappaya Sampajanya, the clear comprehension of what is suitable. Gochara Sampajanya, the clear comprehension of yogi's territory or yogi's domain. Asamoha Sampajanya, the clear comprehension of non-delusion. We have to understand. As you recited the Pali words yesterday, now also I want our yogis to repeat after me these 4 kinds of Sampajanya in Pali. Please repeat after me. Sattaka Sampajanya, Sappaya Sampajanya, Gochara Sampajanya, Asamoha Sampajanya, Sattaka Sampajanya, Sappaya Sampajanya, Gochara Sampajanya, Asamoha Sampajanya, Sattaka Sampajanya, Sappaya Sampajanya, Gochara Sampajanya, Asamoha Sampajanya. These are 4 kinds of Sampajanya. The first one is Sattaka Sampajanya, the clear comprehension of what is of benefit. Before doing anything, whether or not it is beneficial, we have to think. Come here for the practice. Before you come here, you have to consider whether or not it is beneficial. Practice Vipassana meditation. Is it beneficial? You have to think of it. You have listened many times. Yes. Practice Vipassana meditation is beneficial. What are the benefits? You still might remember the 7 benefits. Purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for reaching the right path and fruition, for realization of Nibbana. These are the main benefits. Main benefits. So, as long as you are mindful, you apply mindfulness, you can get other benefits. When your practice is good, you can be patient with the weather, you can be patient with the food, you can be patient with the lodging, you can be patient with your friends. Because during the practice, you have experienced the mind and mind states. Sometimes happy, sometimes unhappy, sometimes disappointed, sometimes depression, sometimes worried. So whatever arises in the mind, you note of it. At the beginning, you may not be able to note then. With your effort, then you can manage these kind of unpleasant feelings, mental states. Then physically, pain, numbness, stiffness, hardness, you experience. When they appear in your body, you note all of them. That's why, good or bad, you have experienced. You have managed or you cope with them. That's why you have some quality of patience, you have some quality of mindfulness, then you don't mind having bad weather, you can be patient. Then during the practice, you also practice with other yogis. With your mindfulness, you don't care then, only you are mindful yourself. Mindful yourself. As you understand ekayana. Ekayana, eka ayana, one way. The one of the meaning is being alone. Even though you practice in the group, you try to be mindful yourself, try to be aware of your mind and body. You do not think of others, so you are being alone. In this way, you have these qualities. So you understand, practice Vipassana meditation. There are so many benefits. You understand. So, whoever want to be at peace or experience this benefit should practice Vipassana meditation. So you understand it is beneficial. Practice Vipassana meditation. Yes, it is beneficial, but we have to check. It is suitable. Oh yes, it is suitable to practice Vipassana meditation. So you are here. So when you practice Vipassana meditation, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, you have to follow the instruction strictly if you really want to gain these benefits. Just I mentioned, you have to follow it. You should not do any other things apart from the instruction of Vipassana, the Satipatthana Sutta. That's why what I said, during the Vipassana practice, we should not do other things. Sometimes you may think, sitting here 1 hour, walking slowly and gently, smoothly, I may have some problem, my health. I should do other exercise, maybe Tai Chi to relieve stiffness, maybe yoga to practice. What I suggested, yogis, during the Vipassana practice, should not practice yoga or Tai Chi or any other things. Don't worry about your health. Maybe beneficial to do Tai Chi or yoga or other things, but it's not suitable time at the moment of practicing Vipassana meditation. Vipassana meditation. So these 2 sampajanya can be applied in our daily life. Even though we do not practice meditation in our daily life, we can apply. It is very useful. Very useful. Then Gochara Sampajanya, the clear comprehension of yogi's territory, the clear comprehension of yogi's domain. What is the yogi's domain? The 4 foundations of mindfulness the Buddha taught us. If we, as we are Vipassana practitioners, we have to live in our in our domain. If we live in our domain, kilesa, defilements cannot harass. Something like you have to live in your territory at home. You should not go out. When you go out, you have to go out daytime, not midnight. Improper time, if you go out, somebody may harass you. So we yogis also have to live in our domain, in our territory. That is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. If we live in our territory, in our domain, the asamoha sampajanya, the clear comprehension of non-delusion, will come automatically. So clear comprehension of the yogi's domain is very important. Contemplation of the body, or mindfulness on the body, mindfulness on the feelings, mindfulness on the consciousness, mindfulness on the dhamma. Dhamma. So that is when you note the rising and falling of the abdomen, you have to note closely. Not only the rising and falling, all the physical movement, you have to be aware of it, or you have to take note of it. When the pain or feeling arises, mindfulness on the feeling, you have to note it closely and mindfully and respectfully. When the thoughts arises, you have to note them. Should not follow the thoughts, thinking. If you follow the thinking, there's no end. Your mind won't come back to the main object. That's why we should not entertain the thoughts. We must note it straight away. So if you note it straight away, you could notice thinking disappear. Then the mind come back to the main object. So in this way, you live in your territory. Then seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, you have to note all of them. So in this way, you live in your territory. There are also regarding with the Gochara Sampajanya, the clear comprehension of yogi's domain. There are 4 kinds of meditators. The first one is for bhikkhus. When he goes to the village for alms, he carries his meditation. But when he returns, he does not carry his meditation. This is one kind of bhikkhu or meditator. The second one, when he goes to the village for alms, he does not carry his mindfulness, his meditation, but when he comes back, he carries the second one. The third one goes to the village, comes back to the monastery, he doesn't carry the mindfulness. The fourth one, when he goes to the village for alms, when he comes back to the monastery, back and forth, he carries his mindfulness. So we have to follow the fourth one. We have to be mindful all the time. And the commentary said, a bhikkhu, the first one, practices meditation the whole day and at night. Then early in the morning, get up, then practice meditation. When the time arrives for the alms food, he goes to the monastery, he goes to the village, but with mindfulness. He can be mindful on the way to the village. When he comes back, he talks to other monks and samaneras. He does not carry his mindfulness. He breaks his mindfulness. The second one also practices like the first monk, but early in the morning, he is hungry, could not be mindful properly. That's why quickly go to the village and collecting the food, they eat in the village. Then after that, when he comes back, he is mindful on the way back to the monastery. The third one, when he goes to the village, he does not carry his mindfulness. When he comes back to the monastery, he does not carry his mindfulness. Maybe he is not a practitioner. The fourth one is very careful. When he goes to the village, he is very mindful. When he comes back, he carries his mindfulness very carefully. So we have to take example, the fourth bhikkhu. That's why we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful everything. Not only sitting meditation and walking meditation. When you report, that's why you have to report, not only sitting and walking, in daily activities, whether or not you are mindful. If you are mindful, what do you notice? Then you should tell briefly. In this way, meditation teachers can understand how you have mindfulness, what you understand. Now, I recited Abhaikanti, Pataikanti, Sampajana Kari Hodi. In going forward and in going back, applying clear comprehension. How do we apply clear comprehension? To note the footstep respectfully, carefully, and closely. As we are instructed, 1, 2, 3 steps, note carefully. When we note the footsteps carefully, we can notice the first step, at least moving or motion. Roughly we can notice. Then second, noting the 2 steps, noting, lifting, pushing forward, lifting, placing. If we could note 2 steps closely, our noting is clear, our understanding become clear. Just now I said the sampajana, the understand correctly or clearly and thoroughly. So when you note lifting, when the mind, noting mind, goes to the lifting closely, you might notice or you might be aware there is lightness in your lifting. You might notice. When you drop it or when you place it down, you might notice there is heaviness. At least you might notice. You say, I note lifting, I notice there is lightness. I note placing, I notice heaviness. What do you? That is you notice. So this is your experience. You do not mention, I notice Abodhatu, water element. I notice Vayodhatu, air element. I notice Tejodhatu, fire element. I notice Pathavidhatu, earth element. You do not mention. Also not necessary to mention any elements. Just what you experience, what you notice, just simply you should mention. You don't need to mention Pathavi or Abo or Tejo, but you have experienced these elements. If you say, I could note lifting, I notice, or I feel lightness in my foot. When you feel lightness in your foot, because of the Tejodhatu, fire element, air element, the foot is light. The foot is light. When you burn the heap of rubbish or leaves, the ash flying over. Why? Because you burn, because of the fire. When sometimes you might see the leaves in the air when the wind blows. So here you are watching your body carefully in your mind. Your mind. Oh, there is the air element clear in your foot, lifting. There is Tejo Dhatu, fire element in your foot. This is a yogis who practice Vipassana meditation ardently and energetically can discern correctly. Is it that true? Lightness? If you experience, yes, is that true? When I note lifting, I feel or I notice there is lightness. Something pushing up, pushing my foot up. I feel. So when you drop it, when you drop or when you place it down, you feel heaviness. Heaviness. Or water element, more clear, heavy. The air element followed by, you would notice. Then when your foot touch on the ground, what would you feel? Maybe hardness, maybe softness, you might feel. But to feel it, what we say, don't search for anything purposely. Don't look for anything purposely. Just bear mindfulness. The mindfulness is very important. Many times I have told to be mindful because the Buddha taught us, satima, being mindful, moment to moment. Moment to moment. So, if you are mindful closely, you would notice this kind of feeling, hardness or softness. When you feel hardness, there is earth element, soft or hard, you would notice. Then you note that lifting, pushing forward, placing. When you note pushing forward closely, every step mindfully, you might notice the movement, the motion forward one another. You might feel somebody pushing you from the back or pulling your foot from the front. You might feel Vayo Dhatu, the air element. So this is a sampajana, clear comprehension. Clear comprehension. The clear comprehension, the meaning a yogi who are mindful can discern clearly or thoroughly or completely. Completely, yes. At the beginning of the practice, when you note lifting, you could not see anything. Many movement rises, then disappeared. In the lifting, in the walking, in the placing, you could not see because your mind power is not strong enough. When your mindfulness, the power of the mind, mindfulness is strong, in the singing of the lifting, in the singing of the movement, in the singing of the dropping, there are so many stages rising, fading away. You could see or you could notice. In the same way, when you sit down, when you get up, you could see many parts of movement. So this is the meaning of sampajana, clear comprehension. In going forward and going back, when you return to your footpath, you have to be mindful. The same thing you could understand. In standing, note standing. When you note standing mindfully, you might be aware of your standing posture. There is tightness in your body, in your leg, in your foot. You might notice. What should I see? Noting, standing. Sometimes we do not understand. Also, we do not pay attention in the standing. We must pay attention. We must note it very carefully. Standing. Then note moving. Move slowly and mindfully. Then you can notice. When I note turning, I notice my body is moving. Moving is the air element. You can notice. This is a clear comprehension. Then looking and looking straight on, looking sideways. We have to apply clear comprehension. We are told, do not look at anywhere unnecessarily. But if necessary, we have to look. When we look somewhere, we must note looking, or seeing. Have to be mindful. Note it. Then samenjite pasarite sampajana kari hoti. Sometimes we need to bend our hand. We need to stretch. For example, when we are practicing sitting meditation, there is itchiness somewhere in the body, maybe on the face. So we at first we note itchy. Itchy is so strong. Not very strong feeling, but very strong feeling. So we could not bear the itchiness. We want to note. When we note, we want to scratch it. If we want to scratch it, at the beginning we must note intention. Intending to move our hand. Intention. Note intending to move. Moving. We do not purposely bend our hand. We do not purposely stretch our hand. But if necessary, we do it. So moving, note. Then, before we scratch the itchiness, note intention. Intending to scratch. Then scratching. When itchiness disappears, then we have to put our hand down. So putting down, wanting to putting down, intention note, then putting down. In this way, we note in detail, the mindfulness in detail. I have to say, I say, note in detail, not in a hurry. Don't put it back immediately. Keep it back slowly and mindfully. Or keeping, or putting, have to note. In this way, in the movement, we can notice the movement, air, element. Yogi understand. So samenjiti pasarite sampajana kari hodi, and bending or stretching the limbs. Yogis have to apply clear comprehension. Sanghati pata jiwara dharane, for monks. When they wear the robe, double robe or outer robe or upper robes, they have to apply clear comprehension. That is, they have to be mindful. When they carry the bowl, they have to apply clear comprehension. For lay yogis, when you wear your dress, you have to be mindful. Wearing. When you carry something, the glass or plate or whatever, you have to be mindful. Then eating, khaite, taite, sampajana kari hodi. Atiti piti khaite, sampajana kari hodi. Eating mindfully. How do we eat mindfully? In the instruction, if you listen carefully, our late most venerable Mazi Sayadaw explained, when you see the food or look at the food, you have to note seeing or looking. When you take the spoon, you have to note taking or handling, note handling. When you scoop the food, note scooping. When you bring the food, note bringing. When you open the mouth, note opening. When you put the food, note putting. When you chew the food, note chewing. Especially when you chew the food, don't swallow it immediately because you are hungry. You have to chew mindfully, chewing, not 2-3 times, as many times as you can. In this way, the food you eat can be digested easily as well, good for health. But not for health here. With mindfulness, you have to chew your food. Then when you swallow it, you have to note swallowing. In this way, we can apply clear comprehension. One yogi told me how he practiced eating mindfully and drinking mindfully. She followed the instruction strictly. When she eats mindfully. All the process of eating, the one spoonful of the meal goes to the stomach. So eating in this way, after some time she doesn't want to eat. So much suffering to eat one spoonful of meal. She said, because she practiced very mindfully. So if our yogi also trying to test, eat mindfully, all the process of eating, then drinking also have to be mindful. After eating, what happened? Ujjara pasawa kame sampajana kari hodi. Call the nature. Use the bathroom. Have to be mindful. Should not think it's not necessary to be mindful using the bathroom, restroom. But the Buddha taught must apply mindfulness when the nature calls. At the moment of being mindful, also can understand clearly and correctly and mindfully. That's why we have to be mindful when we use the restroom or call the nature, the air element, water element, etc. We would notice. Then, kate tite nisaine, when we are walking, just now I have mentioned standing, sitting, then sleeping, falling asleep. When we are on the bed, are we mindful? We have to be mindful still. Note, sleeping, or lying down. Note it. But if you note it attentively, you won't fall asleep easily, because the mind is alert. That's why in general noting or superficial noting, just note sleeping, or lying down. You can fall asleep easily if you note on the bed. You don't need to take sleeping tablet. You don't need to take. Can fall asleep very easily. Very easily. So I came here very far away from Australia, 13 hours flying to LA. I got jet lag. What I do, I just note rising, falling, sometime in out. So can fall asleep. This trip is very easy for me. Otherwise, I take 1 week. Daytime I sleep, nighttime I could not sleep. Now this trip, very good for me. I was not very tired. That's why I could teach every night. Otherwise, till now I will not teach. I fall asleep in the daytime. So very good with meditation. Then when you wake up, you have to be mindful. Not easy to be mindful as soon as we wake up. But if you practice, you can be mindful. You can catch when you are waking up. At the beginning, we forget. When we wake up, we forget to note. We forget the mindfulness. When we practice, we can catch it. As soon as we wake up, there's mindfulness. Waking up. Then, talking. Yogis are not allowed talking. But sometimes, we have to talk. For example, when you report your experience to meditation teachers, you have to talk mindfully. Are you mindful when you are talking? How do you talk mindfully? You know, I will tell you. When I practiced meditation, we have to report to our teacher. We keep our eyes down. We must not look at anywhere. Just keep the eyes down. Then report. We have to control our hand. We should not move. If we move, our teacher knows we are not mindful. So at the beginning, as a beginner yogi, new yogi, I didn't know. So I look at Sayadaw. Then my hand also a bit move. Samanera, why you look at? You are not mindful. Even he could see our weakness. So we have to be mindful when we are talking. We should not move our hand. If we move our hand, teachers may think, even in front of the teachers, the yogi is not mindful. How can he be mindful behind the teachers? They may think. So when we are talking, we have to be mindful. Then, don't need power. When we keep silent, also we have to be mindful. If we do not talk, have to be mindful in our body. So these are the daily activities, mindfulness in daily activities. I trying to explain. We also have to practice according to this instruction. So in this way, you do not have the time for the practice. You are so busy in sitting meditation, you are mindful. In walking meditation, you are mindful. In daily activities, you are still mindful. So during 2 weeks retreat, you would experience a lot. What the Buddha taught. What a lot you would understand. All 4 elements the Buddha taught. There is no person in the body, no entity, no spirit, only 4 elements, 4 dhatus. So you have experienced in the singing of the rising or in the singing of the footstep, you have understood clearly 4 elements. Or the Buddha also taught about 5 aggregates, khandhas. You have experienced. Noting carefully. You have experienced. Then 12 ayatanas, sense bases. You have experienced. You just know the rising, falling, sitting, touching, and so on. But you have experienced so many things. What the Buddha taught. There are 4 noble truths, 4 noble paths. A lot. You have experienced. How? I have experienced. I haven't understood yet. Wait for following days. 2 days enough. I will try to explain how yogis have understood, how yogis discerned these dhammas clearly. So today is enough. May you be well and happy. May you be able to practice meditation ardently and energetically. Then may you understand the dhamma clearly as they really are. Sadhu, sadhu.